welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a February reading recap. So I'm going to talk about all the books that I read in the month of February and what I rate them, why I rate them that way. I did do a really quick video on my TikTok of a simple yes no or maybe for every book that I read in February. So if you want the quick version, I would say go to TikTok. If you want the long version and you want to know why I felt that way about each one, then you are in the right place. So welcome and thank you for coming. I'm going to talk about them in the order that I read them in, and also it is actually kind of funny. I literally only have 3 physical copies of all 10 books that I read in February, which is just hilarious. I read most of my books in February on my Kindle, so I'm going to be popping up a picture of each book on the side. So with that being said, the first book that I read in February was Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams. It's also funny because I said in my January recap that I was currently reading this and that I was almost positive I could finish it by the end of January, and here we are talking about it in my February recap because I indeed did not finish it in January. So I did finish this in the very beginning of February, and I very, very much enjoyed this book. I actually thought that this might even become my favorite Sarah Adams book that I've read. I really, really enjoyed this book. I thought it was so fun, and I just loved it. I actually had a hard time connecting to the main character in the very beginning of the book, but as it went through, I started to love the main character for all of her quirks and for the way she is for certain. I don't know why I can't talk right now. She is the way that she is because of certain things and factors that play into her life, just like everybody. And once you get to know her a little bit, I feel like it's almost hard not to love her, I thought. And I loved the male main character in this book. I also loved certain lines that she wrote in this. I just thought there were certain parts that were written very beautifully. I found myself highlighting and underlining certain lines because I just thought that they were so well written and it was just really pretty. So this honestly may have become my favorite Sarah Adams book that I've read so far. The other thing is, most Sarah Adams readers know, or fans know, that she's often a closed-door romance writer. And this was the first one I've read by her that was not closed door. But what I loved was that she put a warning in the beginning and said, if you prefer to read closed door romances and would like to modify this story so that you are not involved in the details of their intimacy scenes, chapters 25 and 32 should be skipped. Guys, I don't know why I can't talk today, but I loved that. I loved that she put that in the beginning of the book. That was awesome to me because I do love closed door romances, and one of the things that I love the most about Sarah Adams is that she is a closed door romance author. And so I love that she did incorporate spice in this book, but she gave a content warning in the beginning to which chapters to skip if you don't want to read that. I loved that, and I wish more authors would do that. So then the next book that I read was on my Kindle, and this was Definitely Better Now. This is by Ava Robinson, and I ended up giving this one a 4-star. And I really enjoyed this book while I was reading it. So I thought this was a really, really great story. I felt that the main character was very relatable, especially to anybody that deals with anxiety or depression on a regular basis. I feel like this main character was very relatable. She talked about a lot of social anxiety, and I really, really loved it while I was reading it. almost to the point where while I was reading it, I was like, this could possibly be a 5-star story for me. This was more to me of like a general fiction with a romance subplot, and I loved that. I love general fiction with like a romance subplot. It's like, I want romance in the story, but I want there to be depth to the story. Like I want to see character growth and character development in my main characters. I want to see them go through hard things and come out on the other end a better person for it. Like I love that type of story. And so I feel like this one was really, really great. I really liked it. There was also like some family issues and family drama that was talked about in this book. I just really, really loved it. There was romance in the book as well. I just thought it was really, really great. The only thing that knocked it down to a 4-star was that I felt like the second the book was over, I didn't give a second thought to the book or any of the characters again. Like to the point where I actually can't even remember the main character's first name. Like, I don't know if that's just a me problem or if that's like, if many people felt that way about this book. I'm really not sure. But, I did really enjoy it while I was reading it. I just felt like as soon as it was over, it was like not very memorable. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with Definitely Better Now. I did really enjoy it, but it just wasn't like one of my favorites, I guess. It wasn't super memorable, but I really enjoyed it. I still highly recommend it. Like a 4-star is still like, I really enjoyed this book. I flew through it and I do recommend it. It just wasn't like one of my favorite books of all time, if that makes sense. Then the next book that I read was The Fall Risk by Abby Jimenez. I got this on my Kindle through Prime Reading, so it was free. And if you've been on my channel for a while, you know I am a Abby Jimenez girl to my core. I love her books. I love the, what is it called? Part of Your World. I love the Part of Your World series. Part of Your World, Yours Truly, and Just for the Summer are like 3 of my favorite romance books of all time. I love them. I love them so much. And so Abby Jimenez has very quickly become one of those authors that it's like, if she writes it, I'm reading it, period. Like, it doesn't really matter. I might not get to it right away, but I'm planning to read it at some point. And so when I saw that she wrote this really cute little short story, I've been dying to get a hold of her newest book that's coming out this year. And so when I saw that she has a new short story, I was like, I need to read this. And I loved it, of course. I am not surprised at all. I thought it was the way that she can like write a short story and make me love the characters like it was like a 300-page book is insane. I loved these characters from the start, and like I was like kicking my feet from the very beginning of the book. Like this story started and I was immediately like, I love them and I need to read this whole thing. And I literally think it was only like 100 and something pages. I'm gonna check because it was only 82 pages. 82 pages. What? That's insane to me. How could she make me love these characters so much in 82 pages? That is pure talent to me. That is like, I literally do not know how she does it, but I think she's amazing. I absolutely love her. And this book was so, so, so cute. So if you have the desire to read a very, very quick short story about Charlotte and Seth, I think their names were. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what their names were. Please pick up The Fall Risk. I think it was so worth it, and it was a great, great quick read. I absolutely loved it. Then the next book that I read was for my book club, and this one it was my book club pick, so that is Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. I read this in the very beginning of February, so we're still, it's like February 6th, February 7th, because I had to get it back. I borrowed this book from the library and I had to get it back by like the 14th or something like that. And so I was kind of in a rush to read it, but at the same time, I've been dying to read this book. So it didn't really like affect my rating of the book. I give this one a 4.75. And the reason I'm being so specific about it is because this book could have been a 5-star read for me, but it didn't reach the same level that I love Beartown. Beartown is like one of my favorite books I've ever read. Honestly, the whole series is like one of my favorite that I've ever read. And I feel like Anxious People came very, very close, but it wasn't quite a Beartown level of love for me. So I just knocked it down like literally a quarter of a point, because I really, really loved this story. I loved the characters. I loved the intricacies of his writing and the plot and the way that like he connects characters in ways that you would never expect. There was even a huge like twist in the story, like a plot twist that was unexpected. I just love Frederick Bachman. I love Frederick Bachman. I love his writing. And I feel like I'm at the point where I think that anything he writes, I might just love. I am very quickly adding more and more books by him to my TBR. I'm hoping to read A Man Called, everybody says it different. I've heard Ove, I've heard Uva, I've heard Ove. I think it's Uva because I think that's the way the narrator says it in the audiobook. But I've been really, really wanting to read that book for a while. So that was very, very soon on my TBR, as well as Britt Marie Was Here. I also have that one that I'm really, really excited to read. And I have one more and I can never remember the title of it because it's really long. And it's like something about my grandmother told me to tell you this or something like that. I have that one as well. And I want to read that one. But I think Britt Marie Was Here and A Man Called Ova is higher on my TBR. So coming off of the high of reading Anxious People and loving it, I moved on to reading his short story, The Answer Is No, which I had this one again. This was another short story that I had from like Amazon Prime reading. So I had it for free on my Kindle. And it also, I think I also had like the audio listen, but I ended up just reading it on my Kindle and not listening to the audiobook. And this one was a 3-star. So I know I just raved about Frederick Bachman's writing and how anything he writes I would love. And I do still think that a 3-star is not bad, but it was just okay. And I think that's because his specific style of writing, I feel like the longer the story is, the more I come to love his characters because they're all very quirky. And I feel like because this was such a short story, again, this was 68 pages. This is a very, very short story. And the main character was very quirky, and I feel like I just didn't have enough time to really love him or feel connected to any of the weird, quirky characters in this story. But I think if he fleshed this book out a little bit and he turned this into a full novel, I could see loving it. I just feel like it was a little too short for me to really feel attached or really even care about the characters at all. It was just a little bit strange. But it still wasn't bad. I still enjoyed it. I don't think it was like a waste of my time by any means. And I feel like if you've read a ton of Frederick Bachman and you're like just on this, like you're missing his writing style, I think you'll still enjoy this. So I would still say certain people I would recommend reading this book, but I wouldn't recommend it to everyone. So then moving on to the next book that I read. This is when After I read Definitely Better Now, I got into a like Kindle, like I just could not stop. My husband was making fun of me because every single night I was just sitting in my bed basically until I could not keep my eyes open anymore, and I was just like tapping. Like I could not put my Kindle down this month, and I don't know what changed. I don't know why that happened, because usually I'm an audiobook girly all the way, like through and through. I love a good audiobook. And this month, audiobooks have been putting me into reading slumps. So I don't know what's happening, and I'm not entirely mad about it. Like I love reading a book without the audiobook as well. I just feel like I'm such a mood reader, even down to the format that I read the book in. And this month it was not physical forms. Like physical books were just not it. Like I read a couple physical books and then I was like, nope, I want my Kindle back. Like I was just looking for anything I could read on my Kindle basically. So the next book I actually got approved thanks to NetGalley. I got approved for the ARC, the advanced reader copy of The Love Haters by Catherine Center. Catherine Center has become an author that I absolutely love, and she's become a auto-buy author for me. So she has very quickly become an author that it doesn't, like, as soon as she writes it, I'm going to buy it. And this book just added to the list of, I mean, this book just became one of my favorite Catherine Center books I've read. Now, I haven't read many, but it is my favorite so far. The way I fell in love with these main characters, especially the female main character, because again, this was another book that it was more of a general fiction with a subplot of romance. And I feel like I loved that about this book. I loved that about this story. I feel like I just could not get enough of this book. Like when it was over, I could not stop thinking about these characters at all. I mean, for like weeks. Like I read other things and I was still thinking about these characters. Like I just could not get over, like, I'm at a loss for words. I do have a review on TikTok of this book specifically, so where I go a little bit more in depth on this book, because I am trying to get through 10 books in one video. So I'm not going to go super in depth in it, but I all I can say is please read this book. It comes out May 20th, and I am begging you, go read it. It doesn't matter how you get it, Kindle, audiobook, physical book, I don't care, but go read it, because you will not be disappointed at all. I don't think you'll be disappointed. This was so good. So with that being said, the next book that I read was How to Walk Away by Catherine Center. So you can tell that I loved this book a lot, because whenever I really love a book, my tendency is to find another book by the same author and see if it can give me those same feelings. And now I really enjoyed How to Walk Away, but I did not love it nearly as much as The Love Haters. The Love Haters was just one of my favorite books. I mean, I can't even rave about it enough. I gave it a 5-star. Like, that is crazy. I gave that book a 5-star this year. Like, I'm adding that to my top recommended books. Like, I just loved it. And so moving on to this one, which is one that's a little bit older, in her books. I don't know exactly like the timeline of when they came out, but I think she has quite a few books that have come out since this one. This is definitely, it came out in the early 2000s. It's a little bit older, but it was still really, really great. And I ended up giving this book a 4-star. I really, really enjoyed it. I had a great reading month this month. I think like I just read one book after another that I really, really liked. And it was a really, really great reading month. I just loved all of these books. And this book was so, so good. Yet again, this is another book that is a general fiction book, but with a romance subplot. It deals with very heavy topics. And it was so great. This book is about a woman that her boyfriend is a pilot, and he wants to take her on a plane ride on one of those really, really small planes. I don't know what they're called. It's actually on the cover of this book. He took her on a plane ride where he wanted to propose to her on the plane, and they ended up getting into a really bad plane crash where the pilot, was completely unaffected. He had no harm to him, but our main character, her legs got crushed in the plane crash and she became completely paralyzed from, I believe, her knees down. So she could still, like, her hips and thighs were still, like, she could feel everything, but like knees down, she was completely paralyzed, so she could no longer walk, or honestly, like, her life was completely turned upside down. And I really, really enjoyed this story. I felt like there was so much emotional depth to the story. There was really heavy topics and hard topics, but there was also really light and fun and just like comical moments to this story as well. There was like 2 characters specifically that I can think off the top of my head that were really, really great, like comedic relief in all of the heaviness. So, she's talking about these really hard feelings of like basically grief over the life that she once had that she will probably never have again. And I just felt like in all of that heaviness, there was these 2 characters that just were there to cheer her up and to do whatever they needed to do to honestly take her mind off of it and to show her that her life as she knew it might be changed, but that doesn't mean that her life has ended. Like, it can be just as good, just in a different way. And man, oh man, did I love, love, love this book. This book was so, so good. Honestly, even just talking about it, I feel like my rating for this is more like a 4.5, 4.75. Like, it wasn't quite one of my favorite books of all time, but it was up there. Like, it was so good. And this is a book that I feel like I could recommend to almost anybody. It was just so, so good. So another really, really great read. And Catherine Center is becoming one of my favorite authors of all time, if you can't tell. So I will be also diving down a rabbit hole of all of Catherine Center's backlog books, and I just want to read all of them. Like, I want to read The Bodyguard and the one that comes after that. I think it's Hello Stranger is what that's called. I want to read all of the books in like this. They look, the covers to this, like, they all look similar. There's like 4 of them. This is included. I want to read all of them. I literally want to get to all of them, but I'm going to try to space them out a little bit, because I'll be really sad when I have no more Catherine Center books to read. But at the same time, like, if I'm in the mood for them, I'm just going to pick it up and I'm just going to read it. So we'll see what happens. But that was another phenomenal read from Catherine Center. Moving on to my next book, I'm on to the last 3 books, and these ones should go a little bit quicker. So the next book was Brynn and Sebastian Hate Each Other. This book was another book that was on my Kindle, and I've actually had this one for a long time, and I forgot about it, and it was kind of like down low on my Kindle. When I tell you that I was in such a mood to read on my Kindle that I was just scrolling all the way to the bottom. I was like, okay, what Kindle books do I have on here that I can read right now? I also do have Kindle Unlimited at the moment, so there's also those books, but I also want to get through like my TBR and books that I've had for a long time that I want to get to. So this was one of them. This was one of the books that has been on my Kindle for a long time, and it got pushed to the bottom and I kind of forgot about it. And so I decided to pick this one up and read it. And this one was like probably a 2.5 for me. I ended up rounding up on Goodreads to a 3, but unfortunately this one's gonna be a 2.5. I felt like this is like marketed, I guess, as like an enemies to lovers. It's about these two I can't even think their names or or what's going on. It's about a girl that is basically a newscaster, and she is like the pride and joy newscaster of this channel. Everyone loves her. Everybody thinks she's just like the sweetest, most perfect girl ever. And one day when she thinks that the cameras aren't rolling, she says a lot of stuff that shouldn't have been said on air. And so in order to not get fired, she has to basically go back to her hometown and make everything okay. On video, by the way, like she has to be filmed for the news channel to like basically apologize and make everything okay in her hometown in order to not lose her job. And I feel like that was like a terrible synopsis, but that's the best I can give you. And I felt like I didn't really like either of the main characters, and that's why it was a 2.5 for me. I feel like not only did I not really feel a connection to them, I just didn't like them. Like all the way to the end, I really just did not love these characters. So unfortunately, it just is what it is. This book is just going to be a 2.5, and that's just what it is. Like this was definitely my lowest book of the month, and that's okay. I had so many books that I really, really loved that I don't mind reading one low book, but I don't recommend this book. This is just wasn't my favorite. So if anybody has read this book, let me know what you guys thought, because I'm very, very intrigued to know. I always love when there's a book that I don't love to hear from people who did really like it, so that I can see like if their thoughts and opinions can like sway my thoughts. But yeah, that's just how I felt. So moving on to the next book, which was another book that I was given from NetGalley, and that is Summer in the City by Alex Astor. This book is going to be coming out March 25th. And I just got this book in February. I read it immediately. The second I got the email that I was approved for Summer in the City, I was so excited. I was like, I'm reading this book right now. I'm so excited for it. Even though it's not summer, it gave me all of the it made me so excited for summer. And it made me want to go to New York. I loved the setting of this book. It was very, very fun. Literally the whole vibe of summer in New York. It was just so fun, and I really liked it. I did really, really love the characters in this book. And I felt like the book got a little bit slow about halfway through. There was probably 75 pages, maybe 50 to 75 pages that I felt like it started to drag, and I started to lose interest just a tiny, tiny bit. It felt like the story was dragging on just a little bit too long. But I would say that it did recover itself by the ending. I really, really enjoyed the ending. And I gave this book a 4-star. I thought this was really, really fun, and I do recommend reading this. I thought it was really great. Now, there was spice in this book. So for all of my my readers they love a closed door romance, this book definitely did have some spice. So I would maybe look up, like, I don't know, look up to see like if this is in your interest. But I thought the story was great. It had a really, really, really fun like setting and vibe to the whole book. So I thought it was a really, really great debut to adult romance for Alex Astor. So I thought she did a phenomenal job, and I definitely, definitely recommend this. And so now moving on to my last book of February. And this book took me the entire month to read. I started this in the very end of January and took me all the way till the end of February to finish. And that is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. This book is massive. And the crazy thing is, it's actually not as long as you would think. It is only, I say only lightly, it is 690 pages. But for what this looks like, you would think that this is like an 1,000-page book. Like, this looks huge. This looks massive. But I really, really enjoyed this book. I did feel like there was about 100 pages in the middle of the book that it was very slow, and I felt like we could have done without. Like, maybe there was a bit that could have been taken out in the editing process of this book that wasn't taken out. But I feel like the story itself, the world, the characters, it all made up for it. I thought that the characters were really great. I loved them. The world building was phenomenal and incredibly unique. I've never really read anything like it. Like, it's very different. And I feel like in a time now where fantasy, and specifically romantasy, is becoming a little bit oversaturated. Like, I feel like everywhere you turn, you're seeing like, oh, look at this romantasy recommendation. Here's a new romantasy book, new romantasy by this person. I feel like in a world where romantasy is becoming very, very oversaturated, this was incredibly unique. And so I really, really did enjoy this book. Now, I did get a question on TikTok that I answered there, but I'm also going to answer here. And somebody asked, does this book have spice? And my answer to that is yes, but it's all the way towards the very end of the book. I mean, not the very end, but like for a 690-page book, I think it was like all the way in the 500s before we got to any spice. But yes, there was spice in this book. But yeah, this was another great way to end the month, because this was a fantasy book that has been on my physical TBR for a long time, and I've been super intimidated to pick it up and to read it. And I was very, very pleasantly surprised with how much I really enjoyed this book. And I'm really looking forward to the second book that's going to come out in, I have no clue. I'd have to look that up because I don't want to give you guys the wrong information. But that was the last book for February. But we do still have a couple days left in February, and I am currently reading a book. And I'm like 46% through the book. So there's a good chance that I could finish it in February. I say could because I say that every month. Every month when I do my reading recap, I'm always like, oh, I'm reading this book and I could finish it by the end of the month. And then it ends up being in my next recap because I don't finish it by the end of the month. But my current read is the strawberry, what is it called? The Strawberry Pancake, the Strawberry Patch Pancake House. The Strawberry Patch Pancake House by Lori Gilmore. This is the fourth book, right? No, sorry. This is the third book in the Dream Harbor. Guys, what is going on with me? I was right the first time. This is the fourth book in the Dream Harbor series. So there's the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, the Christmas Tree Farm, and the Strawberry Patch Pancake House. She does have another one with the cover already revealed that will be coming out in September in this series, and that is the Gingerbread Bakery. But I was approved again for the arc of this book from NetGalley, so thank you so much to NetGalley this month, because I was approved for a lot of my arcs this month, which is really, really fun. I love that. And so I am really hoping to read the Strawberry Patch Pancake House before it comes out on March 13th. I want to have it finished before the release date and reviewed online, just because obviously I'm being given the arc for review. So I really want to have it read and reviewed before the release day. So that's why I say I might have this read by the end of February, but we'll see. February is a shorter month, so I may or may not get to the end of it. But that is all the books that I have for this month. So thank you so, so much for joining me in this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I hope that you pick up some of these books, because this was one of my favorite reading months, like, in a while. I almost said this year, and it's only the second month this year. But I mean, like, this was just one of the best months in a long time for me in terms of finding a lot of books that I really, really loved. So I hope that you guys really loved these recommendations and that you pick up some of these books. I am going to be not like taking a break from YouTube, but I'm taking a little bit of a back burner from YouTube, and I'm posting mainly on my TikTok now. So if you're from my YouTube channel and you're watching my YouTube videos, head over to my TikTok and check out my account. And if you're from TikTok, thank you so much for coming to my YouTube channel and watching this video. I appreciate it more than you know. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video.